Okay, so this is iPhone 15 Plus, literally 1 year later, right after the launch of the iPhone 16. So I wanted to make a video on whether you should consider this one over the iPhone 16 because they cost the same. This is the Plus variant of the iPhone 15, or you shouldn't buy 16 Plus at all and go with the 15 Plus. I'm gonna answer that somewhat. So let's look at the dimension first. Are there any changes? Well, no, zero. There is zero changes. That means they're totally using the chassis of the iPhone 15 to create an iPhone 16. The only thing they change is the interior design to place the camera, the main camera, which is still 48 megapixel camera, below the ultra-wide angle camera. That's what they did. Same goes for the weight of the phone. So in terms of the whole dimension, I never felt the iPhone 15 Plus uncomfortable, even though it's still a massive 6.7-inch display, but I never felt any of that because the weight distribution of this phone is really amazing. But is it different in terms of build quality? No, it's not. It's the same aluminum frame, same Corning glass at the front as well as at the back, same frosted glass back. By the way, the frosted glass is probably one of the best things iPhone 15 did. Even though the colors were muted that year, this year the colors are vibrant, but this frosted back alone is a big upgrade over the glossy back because that looks ugly. The aluminum frame is also matte finish, so I would say it's a very aesthetically pleasing phone in terms of looks. And it's also very comfortable because of the rounded corners, the edges are rounded a little bit. So that's the same thing you're going to see with the 16 Plus. No changes. Same goes for IP68 and everything. Now, in my phone has never been in water, inside the water, but it has seen quite a lot of splashes. I've washed this phone a few times and it never gave me problems. But because it's getting older, now it's 1 year old, next it's going to be 2 years old. So I'm going to be a little bit cautious with this. So you already got the answer though. Anyway, let's look at the display. I thought they will bring the iPhone 15 Pro's display to the iPhone 16, and they didn't. They kept the exact same display as the iPhone 15 Plus. Maybe they will come up and say it's much more efficient. You know what? They did talk about how great 1000 nits of typical brightness, 2000 nits of high manual brightness, both are true though, on this device, but this is the exact same panel we have seen in the iPhone 14 Pro Max, and we have also seen it on the iPhone 15 and 15 Plus. They are always comparing it with the iPhone 14 because if you look at the screen to body ratio to compare the bezels, it's same, 88% screen to body ratio, exactly same. The resolution is same, the aspect ratio is same, the pixel per inch is same, everything is same. But same doesn't mean it's bad though, because this display alone, I would say, is probably a very good looking display. From the color accuracy standpoint to the bezel size, if you're running this phone naked, then this bezel size, I think I consider this as a very good looking display. Except there is one key area in the display I hated the most, and that created massive problem in my life. And that's PWM. This phone has very bad PWM. It's the same story on the Pro models too. This year, I don't know whether they changed it or not. They don't mention that. But on my phone 15, oh god, it's so bad in terms of PWM. So I always keep it on high brightness, use assistive touch. So that's a con to me for not everybody though. Because a lot of people don't really care about the PWM and they're totally fine with this display. And it's one of the best displays in the market. With the PWM, there is another thing. It's a 60 Hz panel. So the PWM is even more visible than it would have been with a 120 Hz display. So in 2023, they launched it. In 2024, people have bought the iPhone 15 Plus and it still had 60 Hz display. And the iPhone 16 Plus continues that same trend in 2024 that will go all the way to 2025. Like they could have just introduced something better than that. According to Ross Young, they will introduce that with the iPhone 17 Plus or 17 Slim or 17, whatever. Let's look at the performance. It's Apple's A18, a 3nm chip versus A16 Bionic, a 4nm chip. They're talking about it's 2 generations ahead. Yes, because they only made A17 Pro, there was no A17, and that mostly has to do with their strategy they started with the iPhone 14 Plus. It's true, but it's tricking us. So I can't compare the A18 with the A16 Bionic as much. Apple did show that it's about 15% faster in the CPU performance. If you lower down the performance of the A18 to A16 Bionic's level, then it's about 20% more efficient, which is great. But because you can't control these kind of things, so A18 will still put its massive amount of performance with that kind of efficiency, which will be very much similar experience to the A16. Now, I'm not trying to justify A16 because I own it, because I feel it, that it doesn't slow down, it doesn't bog down. So in my case, the software experience and the performance has been flawless. And I don't need anything more than that. But if I do upgrade the software to a future iOS 19, yes, this processor will slow down and I will need an upgrade. Otherwise, no. But still, Apple's A18 is purely a winner over the A16 Bionic, at least on paper as of yet. But there is another change. They did provide 8GB of RAM with the same exact storage configuration as the iPhone 15 Plus. Will that make any difference in day-to-day life? No, it won't. But this opens up a new thing in the newer phones. That's Apple Intelligence, or AI. That AI stuffs are something that requires 8GB of RAM to run on device. And this is what iPhone 15 Plus lacks. It doesn't come with Apple Intelligence support anymore, and it won't come to this either. So if you want to rewrite professionally, casually, or things like that, you want to use that rewriting tools from Apple, you want to do the image generation, Genmoji, and stuff like that, then yes, the Apple Intelligence is something that is valuable to you, and you know the answer. It's the 16 or 16 Plus, that's the answer. But if not, if you are okay using ChatGPT, which is still somewhere integrated inside the Apple Intelligence, then yes, iPhone 15 Plus is still fine. I do use it. Okay, you might be thinking, okay, the camera is probably going to justify that because it's really new. No, nothing is new. Well, the ultra-wide-angle camera is different, but I said in the last review that this should have been inside the iPhone 15 Plus. They just skipped it. There is a macro mode now, which is missing on the iPhone 15 Plus. So if you're a macro fan, girl, fanboy, then yeah, that's the one. But if you look at the main camera, which is what you're going to use, Apple did talk as if the iPhone 16 is getting the 48 megapixel for the first time ever. No, they didn't even mention that 15 Plus has all the same exact thing. It's the same sensor, same 48 megapixel, f1.6, 1/1.56 inch sensor. Everything is just same. I mean, Apple just said exactly what they said for the iPhone 15 Plus again this year. But let me give you one thing about this camera. But if you go close with the main camera and take a photo with that same exact level of blur and depth or quality even, or the details, which is amazing on this 48 megapixel camera, I would say, like, this is one of the most detailed main camera I've seen. Like, if you take a full 48 megapixel photo, then that is insanely detailed. But the focusing distance, the minimum focusing distance is so poor compared to any 12 megapixel main camera based iPhones. It's really weak. There are so many times you will see not properly focused photos, and for that you have to use a 12 megapixel ultra wide angle camera, and that will lower down the quality, and you get the point. But overall, if you look at the colors and everything, amazing. Even the Apple of their own don't allow you to shoot ProRes videos, but you can with the Blackmagic camera app. Even though it doesn't have a dedicated zoom camera, it does have a 2x mode, which helps that quite a bit. It's a 52mm equivalent perspective, but it does provide me a good amount of zoom level, but wish it was 3x, I would have loved it more. But I'm not complaining as much because this can take some really crisp videos. I do love video capabilities of this device. Totally satisfied. But the Apple's Pro camera app, the Final Cut camera app, doesn't have all those features that you have inside the Blackmagic camera app. You can't control many of the things inside the iPhone 15 Plus. Same goes for the iPhone 16 Plus. And by the way, there is no change in the video department either. There is no 4K 120 FPS coming to the standard phones, the 16 or 16 Plus. So just don't expect that. Same goes for the selfie camera. It's a good selfie camera. The HDR quality on all the photos, rear or the front, is amazing. Very natural tone on all of the photos. But there is nothing fantastic to say about this 12 megapixel camera. But it's quite wide though. Same thing for the 16 Plus. It's the same camera. And all these cameras can take 4K 60 fps video. So just don't worry about that. That inconsistency isn't there at all. And that's the good part of Apple. If you do love the color tone or the natural tone of the main camera, then you're going to like for the selfie camera as well as the ultra wide angle camera, because it's just produce similar kind of look in all of the photos. I was expecting one change, USB Type-C, because now it's a newer chipset, so it should support something newer. No, it's USB 2.0 USB-C port. Same as like the iPhone 15 Plus. Same slow speed. Now, I don't transfer files, so I don't have a problem. But for the people I'm talking about, those who transfer a lot of files or thinking of transferring it, oh god, man, it's only 480 megabits per second. Not more than that, which is 60 Mbps, megabytes per second. But I do charge it from like 20 to 30% to all the way 80 or 85%. I've seen in the charging department, it charges real quick from the 30 to 70 and also fairly quickly to 90, but then it slows down quite a lot. So I usually plug in for like 45 minutes or so, and then it's like from 20 to it's somewhere very comfortable 80, 85 or 90 even. But there is a change in the MagSafe charging department. It's 15 watt wireless charging on the iPhone 15 Plus versus 25 on the iPhone 16 Plus, but the global model, not the Chinese one. So it's a fantastic thing that it can charge that quick even on a wireless charging. But then you might be thinking, okay, fine, what's the battery experience then? For me, the iPhone 15 Plus's battery is so dependable. Like, this is one of the best battery lives I've seen in any phone. The maximum capacity on this phone is currently at 97%. Then again, I can push it even when it's 15%. The performance won't slow down. Maybe if the temperature goes up, then the screen brightness will go down, but that's the only thing you're going to see sometimes because it's 2000 nits it can go. So, you get the point. But even at 5%, I have pushed these phones and it still didn't show any kind of slowdowns and still gave me a good chunk of battery life. I can depend on this phone even if it's at 15% battery life. Otherwise, I don't have any issues with this phone. Okay, so overall, I want to say that this phone could have been one of the best purchases or one of the best iPhone purchases of my life, but it actually isn't. Because the PWM is something, oh man, I can't really bear that thing. I mean, working on this video has been delayed because of that PWM, because I was testing this phone out even more in between the recording and editing the video. But yeah, that's the thing. And then there is the 60Hz display, which is another disappointing thing considering the price it was launched at or even it's selling at currently. And then the slower USB Type-C port, at least in data transfer speed. Plus, the value of this phone after a year. I literally am getting only 30% or 40% of the phone's value now, even at Apple. That's really bad. So, if you are thinking of buying this one used or new in the market, do consider these things. If you're fine with the 60Hz panel and you're not sensitive to PWM, you're fine with a slower USB Type-C transfer speed, and you're fine with not having a dedicated teleporter camera or macro camera, then I think this is probably gonna last you a real long time because the battery life is insane, the display brightness is insane, the display overall is pretty great, everything is pretty much fine on this phone. And if you're buying it currently, then you're gonna get it for even cheaper price than I got it at. So definitely value for money, but only for those kind of people. For other people, get something else. Really cool wallpapers for your devices, whether it's a tablet or a smartphone or even a laptop? Well, I have some crazy cool 8K wallpapers, stunning designs and amazing colors. Visit my website, joindavid.com, link down below. And until the next one, bye and take care.